Hey everybody, so in this video I want to talk to you guys about Hamlet Act 4. Now there are a bunch of scenes for this act. It's kind of like when you're watching an action movie and when the action really picks up, all the scenes, the camera cuts to a bunch of different things very quickly. It's the same sort of concept. So there's a lot of scenes in this act, but they're all really short. So in scene 1, basically, Gertrude, after having her confrontation with her son Hamlet, she goes and she rats him out to Claudius. And she basically tells Claudius that Hamlet is officially insane. She tells Claudius that Hamlet has killed Polonius, and Claudius is kind of lamenting this fact, but it's kind of weird because at the same time, Claudius is also really kind of more upset about his own safety. He says basically, oh my gosh, if I had been the one hiding behind there, I would have been the one killed. And so, it's nice that he's really thinking of his pal there. But anyway, so Claudius insists very heavily that Hamlet is, yes, officially going to England with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. And he insists that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern accompany him. So he sends RNG, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, to see if they can find Hamlet and see if they can find out what's become of Polonius. Where did he put his body? So that's scene 1. In scene 2, Hamlet finishes hiding the body. He's hidden it under the main staircase in the royal lobby, basically. And Rosencrantz and Guildenstern confront him, they find him, they confront him, and they're like, where'd you hide the body? And he's toying with them again. It's basically all he does with these guys. And he refuses to tell them. He's like, I'm only going to talk to the king. So they say, we want to take you to meet the king and talk to him. And Hamlet's like, great, good, let's do this. So, he goes with them to go to the king. Pretty short scene there. In scene 3, Claudius is talking to some lords and ladies, some general attendants, when Hamlet arrives. And I personally love this scene. In this scene, Hamlet throws all kinds of insults to Claudius. He insults him straight to his face, and he does this right in front of all the lords and ladies. So, you can just imagine that Claudius, knowing what he knows now about Hamlet, knowing that Hamlet knows the truth, and knowing that Hamlet's not insane, you got to imagine that Claudius is just grinding his teeth in anger here, wishing that he could get revenge on Hamlet right here and now, but he can't, and Hamlet knows this, so Hamlet's just toying with him. He's insulting him in front of everybody, knowing that there's nothing that Claudius can do about it. He does admit where he put the body, and Claudius sends a couple of guards to go verify. Claudius tells Hamlet, Hamlet, it's not safe for you here. And, he's playing for the audience, basically. So he's like, Hamlet, it's not safe for you here. I'm going to send you to England with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern here. And enjoy. Hopefully there you can get better. And Hamlet knows that Claudius doesn't mean this, and Claudius, of course, doesn't mean this, but they're both playing this up for their audience that's there. So Hamlet agrees to go. He's like, yeah, sure, bring him along. Sounds like a great trip. See you soon. One of the things that we as the audience learn in this particular scene that Hamlet doesn't know yet is that Claudius is sending a sealed letter with the king's royal seal with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Now this letter is addressed to the King of England, and it basically says, Dear King of England, you owe me a favor. I'm basically ordering you to kill Hamlet immediately as soon as you see him. And he sends this letter with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Basically, kind of, wiping his hands like, yep, that's it. Hamlet's going to die. I win. And so this is basically what Claudius is assuming. So he hands Rosencrantz and Guildenstern the sealed letter, tells them to deliver it directly to the King of England, that it's for his eyes only. And there's the end of that scene. Scene 4, I can't really get into too much into scene 4. There's a lot here to unpack, but I can't really get too much into it because I don't want to just straight up give you answers for your quiz. But in scene 4, Hamlet, Rosencrantz, Guildenstern are making their way to the ships. And on their way, they bump into Fortinbras's army. The army from Norway has reached the border of Denmark. And basically, now that they're at the doorstep of Denmark, and remember, they used to be enemies with Denmark. And just, a few months ago, they were like, we're going to kill everybody in Denmark. Well, now they've made a new plan, a new deal, and now they're temporarily allied with Denmark, and they're on their way to Poland. Well, they got to get through Denmark, if you remember, to get to Poland. So they're there at the border, basically waiting for permission to enter Denmark so that it doesn't look like it's an act of war. Hamlet's going to have a conversation with them, and they're going to get really philosophical, and yeah, that's scene 4. Now, scene 5. Here we get to the fallout. Now, in the last act, at the end of Act 3, we had the climax of the play, and that was the death of Polonius at the hands of Hamlet. Well, now, in scene 5, we're really seeing the first real fallout from this. Ophelia, poor, sweet, innocent Ophelia, has quite literally and quite seriously gone insane. Her father is dead. Her father is dead at the hands of her ex-boyfriend. The only reason Hamlet is her ex-boyfriend is because her father told her to break up with him, and being the good, dutiful daughter, obedient daughter that she is, she broke up with Hamlet. Now, her father's been saying all along that the reason Hamlet's gone insane is because of Ophelia breaking up with him. So put yourself in Ophelia's shoes. Your dad tells you to break up with your boyfriend, so you do. Your boyfriend goes crazy. Your father's positive that your boyfriend is crazy because you broke up with him. Then your crazy boyfriend kills your father. Who do you think Ophelia blames for her father's death? Herself. So she's gone quite mad. And it's not pretend like Hamlet's insanity. Hers is legitimate. And it's terribly sad because everybody loved Ophelia. She was this sweet, innocent young lady. And it's terrible news to everybody. Well, so she's singing, she's dancing, she's giving gifts to people in the court. And there's a lot of symbolic meaning to this stuff. And it's kind of interesting here that Shakespeare uses her insanity to basically get a peek behind the curtain of what these characters are really about. The gifts that she gives everyone have symbolic meaning, and it's only because she's gone insane that she's able to understand the symbolism behind these gifts. And none of the other characters in this play understand it quite like she does, but she's too insane to really understand why she understands it, which is kind of the sad, tragic irony here. So, as she's giving these gifts out, there's a commotion from outside the castle, and it appears that her brother has returned from France. Now, he didn't waste any time. Unlike Hamlet, who's been spending months plotting his revenge, as soon as Laertes learned about his father's death, he dropped everything and came home. He wants blood. He has raised a small army of commoners, and he is storming the castle. It's doomed to fail, but he's so emboldened and passionate and infuriated by his father's death, and he blames Claudius. So he wants blood, and he'll die to get it. Well, he makes it into the castle, and Claudius confronts him, and Claudius demonstrates a lot of diplomacy here, a lot of intelligence, and he's able, and cunning, and he's able to talk Laertes down. And he's like, Laertes, if you want the truth about your father's death, you got to put your sword away, you got to tell your mob to go home, and I will talk to you man to man. Laertes agrees, and the two of them have a sit down. Now, as they're talking, Ophelia shows up again, and Laertes, remember, he only knows about his father's death. In the time that he traveled from France back to Denmark, his sister snapped. He didn't know about that. So this is him seeing his sister crazy for the first time. And it breaks his heart and angers him all over again, and Claudius has to talk him down again. So, poor Laertes, right? Okay, so then we kind of switch gears as they're talking, and in scene 6, we learn that some sailors arrive with a message. They tell Horatio that they have a letter for him from Hamlet. And in this letter, Hamlet tells Horatio that the ship that Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, and Hamlet were on was attacked by pirates. And these pirates basically, they find out who Hamlet is. They're like, ooh, we got us a prince here, huh? And basically Hamlet arranges a bribe with them. Basically, you leave me alone and return me to my kingdom, and I will pay you handsomely. You have my word as a prince. Remember, we're at a time period where a person's word was pretty much their bond, so the pirates agree to return him safely to Denmark in exchange for lots of cash. So, Hamlet writes this letter to Horatio explaining that he's got tons of news to report about Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, and their adventures in England, and he will tell Horatio as soon as he gets back. He tells Horatio to escort these messengers, these sailors, to the king and queen because he's got a message for them as well. And then he tells Horatio where to meet him. So, that's basically scene 6, and Horatio, being the good, loyal friend that he is, follows these instructions to the letter, drops off the messengers to the castle, then returns to pick up Hamlet. Now, scene 7. Claudius is talking to Laertes back at the castle, and Laertes is like, why didn't you arrest Hamlet immediately? Like, why isn't he on trial? Why isn't he in prison? Why isn't he beheaded? What's going on? And Claudius explains to him why he didn't. As they're talking and Laertes is getting pretty upset, the messengers arrive and give the letter to Claudius. And the letter from Hamlet says, hey Claudius, your little plan to send me to England didn't work out the way you wanted. I'm on my way back home. See you soon. And Claudius is really worried. He's really scared. But Laertes, not so much. Laertes is like, good. I'm going to get my revenge on Hamlet. And so, basically, as they're talking about how they're going to get their revenge, and Claudius and Laertes plot a pretty detailed, pretty elaborate plot to get revenge on Hamlet once they see him again. As they're talking, a messenger shows up and explains to them both that poor Ophelia has died. Now, the method of her death is something of great concern for the kingdom, the method of how she died and what happened with all of that. It's of great concern for the kingdom, and it's a pretty big controversy, but we won't get into why until Act 5, Scene 1. So, a lot of action going on in Act 4. It is the falling action of the play. All of the fallout from Polonius' death is starting to affect all the different plot lines, and we'll see how it all concludes in Act 5 together as a class.